You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show. The preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends, the big podcast tent in the sky. I don't know why it's in the sky. I'm sitting in my chair, but I don't know. It sounded good at the time. But the technology, the audio rain, the audio hail that will shower down upon you as you listen to podcasts on iTunes will bring you a freshness, an effervescence. An effervescence? I don't know. I flunked second grade. An effervescence, there we go, of joy, of knowledge, of learning, and you'll feel it wash upon you and source you this brilliancy of brain intellect, which I have none, but the podcast does, and the brilliant guests we have on the show do. We're going to be talking with an amazing guest today about his deal, what he does. He helps people unlock brand profit and purpose, how to be a better brand. So we'll talk about brand strategy, impact marketing, and purpose-driven organizations, because God knows if you're an organization that's not purpose-driven, well, what the hell are you doing? You're just kind of wandering out there in the dark. Anyway, guys, as always, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. You know the drill. Do I have to guilt you again? I guess so, because there's always new people listening to the show, the way it goes. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter. Follow us over on TikTok. We're trying to be cool over there. Two really cool announcements that we have on the show. We've booked a lot of CNN guests over the years, and lots of Pulitzer Prize-winning guests and journalists as well. We shouldn't diminish the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal, New York Times. But CNN, we've had a lot of CNN people on. We just booked one of their top anchors. You may have heard of him. Jake Tapper is going to be on the show in August. So stay tuned for that. And next week, we have an amazing gentleman on the show who wrote a book called The Patriot's Promise. Master Sergeant Israel Del Toro is on the show. He's burned over much of his body in an accident serving this country, and he had a 100% disability rating, and he's one of the few. He's the first airman with a 100% disability rating to be allowed to re-enlist. And the cover of his book was he's chatting a lot with President George W. Bush. So it's going to be an honor to have him on the show. As always, we have the most brilliant guests and minds on the show. And of course, none of them are me. I flunked second grade. That should be a t-shirt. Maybe we should sell that. We have Chase Friedman on the show with us today. He's going to be talking to us about his company, Vanquish Media Group. And we'll get into some of the things of what he does. Chase is an impassioned brand storyteller and marketing strategist who believes in the potential for businesses to do good and do well. As the founder of Vanquish Media Group, he has bridged the gap between inspired branded content and digital marketing activation, transforming audiences into brand ambassadors. With a diverse client portfolio, including VC-backed startups, SMBs, and nonprofits, Chase provides strategic brand marketing leadership, resulting in sustainable growth and societal impact. If I can learn to say that. I flunked second grade. Did I mention that? Having produced over 1,500 brand content assets with over 500 million views. That's quite a few views, actually. It's more than 2 or 3, resulting in $45 million plus in revenue and donations. He's proven a potential for any business to profit with purpose, and now he's on the show to help you and us do it as well. Welcome to the show, Chase. How are you?
Glad to be here. I'm taking a breath. That intro is like a meal. I feel like it's like
a meal.
Oh, here we
Chewy.
go. Thanks for having me.
It's tasty. It's got that chewy, tasty little bit of chocolate.
Combo burrito.
Yeah, combo burrito.
Yeah.
I think it's one step up from Taco Bell. I think that's a street taco
We could do, but
Like, I don't know.
it's like a Chipotle, like it's a 3-pounder in your belly. But
Well, we don't want
well,
people to get food
you've done
poisoning.
this once or twice, man. Bravo! Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. We certainly appreciate it. Give us your .com, sir, so people can find you on the interwebs.
VanquishMediaGroup.com. Check us out. Take a look at our work, capabilities, impact. You could also see me on LinkedIn, Chase Friedman.
There you go.
FRIEDMAN. You didn't butcher it at the beginning of the show, Chris. So thank you very much.
There you go. Yeah. Oh well, now I'm thinking about burritos, so I might call you Chase
We're
Fried.
going on a different
We
show.
were joking earlier in the green room, but I mean, I got those fries in the brain. But so give us a 30,000 overview of your company and what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. So, my mantra, as you said, my belief is that we have ability to do good and do well in the world, right? And what does that mean? Profit with purpose. Okay. My company and I help empower purpose-driven people, subject matter experts, organizations of all shapes and sizes through brand strategy, storytelling, and digital marketing activation to do exactly that, right? To grow your business and your brand and profitability with a deeper impact, whether that's for yourself, your team, your community, your consumers. You can have your cake and eat it too, right? Do good and do well.
There you go. And that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur or building brands, is being able to give back to communities, or at least it's supposed to be. We're always trying to struggle to, get to that perfect union, if you will. And it seems like today this matters more than ever before. Like, I know that Generation Z is really concerned about brands, and okay, does this maybe, whatever their flavor is, help the environment,
Yeah.
or build better social structures, or fight endemic discrimination, or different things like that. And so there's lots of different ways that this is important to the consumers as well.
It is, and it's honestly, it's not just consumers, right? This
Mhm.
is something that encourages people to buy from, endorse, work for, work with, invest in your company, right? Like this commitment, when we say to brand purpose, it's not just a nicety. It's not just a thing that feel good, say good, do good, right? This is proven, and the data is backing this.
Mm.
Commitment to brand purpose drive business growth, right? The brands that are not committed to it, the brands that are not consistent with it, or that are just checking a box and promising and not performing, they're going to be left in the dust, right? This is a
Yeah.
stakeholder capitalism at its finest. We're in this movement where, just to throw a few stats at you, consumers are 4 to 6 times more likely to purchase, protect, and champion purpose-driven companies.
Oh,
Okay?
wow.
Yeah. Consumers are 82% more inclined to make purchase decisions with purpose in mind, right?
Mhm.
Or brands that have aligned with their values. 2 and 3 will pay a premium on a product or service for social impact brands, right? When you get into recruitment, we've been through this great resignation, quiet quitting. This is costing billions of dollars for organizations in recruitment, retention, right? So how do we combat that? Again, just millennials, we're not even getting Gen Z. They're going to make up 75% of the workforce in 2 years,
Oh
right?
God, we're fucked. No, I'm just kidding.
83%
I'm
of them
teasing
wanna
you,
work for-
millennials.
Yeah, they want to work for companies that commit to,
They do.
environmental, social causes. Now, I get it. A lot of people rolling their eyes. They're saying, "Oh, save the world." That's not what purpose is about, right? That
Oh.
doesn't mean you have to be on the front lines of saving the planet, saving the world, right? Meet the problem where it's at. That might be purpose driven in your own organization with your team and your employees, right? For me, my efforts, my company, I'm not on the front lines of climate change. We're a member of 1% for the Planet that gives back a portion of our revenue.
Oh, wow.
But our superpower is, I believe in helping support the people that are rolling their sleeves up, doing big things in the world, right? This is a team effort for all of us. So a lot of people say, well, I don't know the first thing about the establishing social justice and in combating climate change. Purpose is simply a matter of what you believe beyond the bottom line, right?
There you go.
So that it's not just about turning a buck. It's what do you stand for that's beyond that. In a lot of cases, you can call it triple bottom line: people, profit, planet.
There you
Arguably,
go.
purpose is the fourth if you want to go real
Yeah.
deep with it.
Our podcast is a purpose-driven podcast. We're here to make the world more intelligent and smarter, and raise the
There you
world
go,
up, and
man.
defeat Dunning-Kruger disease. I think that's part
Whatever
of our
purpose
purpose.
means for you,
Yeah.
it's just stand behind it, be authentic, plant a flag in the sand because people have options,
Yeah.
right?
And-
And what's going to make me listen to you or buy from you or want to work for you beyond the rest of the competitors out there?
There you go. And then our other purpose is to feed my narcissistic need for attention.
There you go. There you go. You're doing great.
My
You're
my
doing great.
14-year audience is going, yeah, that's true. That's what's going on. Right? So, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your
Yeah.
journey. How did you get into this business, this line of work? Tell us about your origin story, if you would.
So, big secret reveal, don't come from a branding background, don't come from a marketing background. I'm a storyteller at heart. I started
Mm,
my career working my way up, kind of school of the hard knocks in the film and entertainment industry. From a lowly PA to executive assistant, all the way to writing, directing, and producing independent film and TV. So, story and storytelling is in my DNA, right? I got wise. I'm a recovering filmmaker, yes, because that is a tough and rough business.
oh, yeah.
You spend years kind of birthing a child or a show or a film out into the world and hoping and praying for the best. But even a great story can fall flat without the right action, right? If you're not
Mhm.
reaching and inspiring and activating people in the right way. So I started getting kind of hired by brands to say, hey, we know how to reach people, or we have these products, these services, help us tell a better story.
Mhm.
So I started consulting for a variety of Fortune 500 brands, lean startups, nonprofits, in helping develop their brand identity, their messaging, their storytelling through content, through a lot of different formations. But obviously, there was still a gap. Unless you can connect and transform audiences into activists and ambassadors, you're doing a lot of work for nothing. So that's what led me to create Vanquish Media Group, kind of a 360 agency where, our model is discovery, getting real clear and understanding who you are as a brand, your positioning, where you're trying to go, identity, how you're going to showcase that and tell that to the world, and then growth, right? So connecting that dots between telling great stories, creating great content, and making sure it is intentionally delivered to people that, are seeking what you're offering.
There you go. And stories are the things that we collect in life. They're my audience has probably heard this from me ad nauseum, but stories are the owner's operating manual of life.
Yeah.
And your film background, telling great stories is the same thing brands are trying to do.
Yeah.
People are trying to do with their own stories when they write books and come on the show, or TV, movie, radio, all these different mediums that we consume, reading books, we're learning stories, we're learning about each other, we're learning how to do better. And of course, people are using usually brands and products or services to problem solve,
That's
like
exactly
how
it.
can I I don't know, get more vitamin D and my body will operate better. Oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe I should buy XYZ brand of vitamin D. Some stuff like that.
Think of any good story. Think of any good
Hmm.
movie you've ever watched, right?
Hmm.
There's a problem, there's stakes, there's a hero, there's a guide that helps them along the way, the guide being the brand. These
Hmm.
are frameworks that are like ingrained into our,
Yeah.
reptilian brains, right? And the truth is people buy on emotion first, logic
Yes.
second, right? So what is the most powerful tool we have to create a connection, create an inspiration, create a need, a desire? It's through storytelling. And I know that's kind of, that's an overused term today, right? It's kind of in vogue. But the truth is it's connecting that story with a clear strategy, right? You can
There you
tell a
go.
great story. If you don't have a strategic framework for how you're going to deploy that, implement that across your brand, your business, again, you need to have that kind of conjoined approach for it to really truly stick and land.
There you go. And no one wants the in your face selling crap. I mean,
No,
I don't know if there ever really was a time for that, but it seems like maybe there were, where it was just like, buy, 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 buy. And you're like, what does that do for me? Like, and consumers are, we've talked about this a lot on this show, but consumers are really more about, what is about me?
that's right.
I don't care what your employee XYZ is on your on your page telling me about how he likes his job. I don't know, maybe that's great for purpose brand stuff, but I'm more first worried about me. Like what's going to be my experience with your product? And so by telling a story, I go, oh, I can see how I might experience the same thing through the story that's being told about some guy who bought a sleep mattress that heats and cools, and how that changed his life, maybe changed his health, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right. No, you're spot on. We're looking for that sort of aspirational transformation. Get me from where I currently am to where I want to be, right?
Hmm.
That's the transportation vehicle, of a great story. And to your point, it's something that it's not, a lot of brands kind of tend to overthink it, right?
Hmm.
We quick flashback in terms of marketing, business companies used to market based off of a tangible feature of a product or service. Then it kind of evolved to benefit, right? We're in this era of identification, like you said. That is the selling point of a business, a product, service, and a brand. How are you identifying with your consumer? And as I said, with consumers, with employees, with investors, they want the brand that they're doing business with or purchasing from to align with their values. It's a very interpersonal exchange. And when people say brand, they're like, oh, you mean my logo? No, brand is not a logo. It's not even a story. It is greater than some of its parts. A brand is determined by the perception of your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of outside in a way, which is tough for business owners to wrestle with. Like, you mean I don't control it? Well, you control some of the levers, but ultimately your audience needs to personally resonate with them.
Definitely. One thing that's interesting is I'm looking at your website here, and there's a stat: 84% of eligible employees will choose to work at purpose-driven companies and brands.
Right.
Right now we're going through this huge, great resignation and fighting over employees, and it's crazy. I mean, technically we're supposed to be in a recession, but we have these jobs being created and people fighting over. I remember right before 2020 and COVID, we were all sitting around going, should we raise minimum wage beyond $7? No,
Yeah.
should we go to 15? No, everyone's freaking out about, no, they shouldn't, no, so much, and now people are fighting over $30 an hour. It's like crazy, and you're just like, well, okay, well, that escalated quickly. But it's interesting to me that people, in so many of these corporate cultures we've talked to, and authors and professors on the show who talk about remote working and stuff, being able to keep employees that feel like they serve a bigger purpose. And I know millennials and Gen Zers, they're looking for that as well. They're like, why am I doing this? And how does this help the world?
Yeah. No, you're spot on. I mean, look, this, like I said, this is not just a trend, right? This is a paradigm shift. This is a movement that we're undergoing, and it's not going away. So you already heard the numbers. And this is not 50-50. This is the overwhelming majority of the populace, and getting even stronger, like you said, with Gen Z, who want to buy from, work for, invest in these sort of companies. And in terms of investments, right? A lot of that stuff is drying up for VCs. But 77% of millennial investors, they are looking for sort of some degree of ESG, environmental, social governance concerns, in regards to their investment opportunities, right? So again, from not just a stakeholder, but a shareholder perspective as well, this is where the movement of a more conscious, a more educated, a more demanding audience of consumers and investors and employers are taking us. And, excellent. So we can do good and still be able to grow our business, have greater margin and market share along the way.
There you go. This is kind of interesting stat off your website as well. Consumers are 4 times to 6 times more likely to buy from trust and champion companies with a strong purpose. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I look for. Like, even when I'm on Amazon, I have the thing where I select the top 4 stars or top 4 or 5 stars level. I'm usually looking for the highest reviews, and then I'm analyzing those reviews for trust, because I know there's a lot of gaming and buying reviews you can take and do. And I do that in a lot of different things that I buy. When I go on Yelp, I'm choosing a restaurant. I usually look at, are these guys trustable? Does it look good? I even look at the plate, and I can tell you if it's a cheap restaurant or not, or if it's a place that can, at least plate well. And usually, stuff that plates well is actually done by better chefs, even though it may not be expensive. And so, we're looking, I think, for that trust more and more, especially as, we find more brands that maybe betray our trust, or, we buy something off of Amazon, or we buy something and, we get it home and open up the box and you're like, wait, this isn't what I saw. Or pretty much anytime you buy anything from IKEA. No, I'm just kidding. We lost IKEA as a sponsor. Damn it. And all 5 Swedish listeners. But we do like Swedish meatballs. Please come back. So, this is a really important factor.
Yeah. I mean, it's and it's not just value signaling, right? We're going through a lot of this sort of greenwashing, purpose washing from companies that they're just kind of saying the right things. They're checking a box. So again, that's only going to get you so far. That's, I always preach to, clients and peers and partners, how do you bridge the gap between promise and performance, right? It's one thing to just promise, say you're going to do good, put it on your social media, put it on your website, but how are you activating and how are you committing to it? And again, you can walk before you run. You don't need to do this world-saving initiative to be purpose-driven, but you better be consistent about it, right?
Yeah.
Because when times are lean, times are tough, down economy, and we're seeing it. I'm not going to name names, but you see a lot of big organizations that have previously invested in, ESG effort, corporate social responsibilities, even DEI. They're pulling back. They have this knee-jerk reaction. Well, Q2, our numbers were down. We're going to trim back all that other stuff and just focus on what we do, selling products.
Oh, wow.
And let's see what happens. It's a cyclical effect because I guarantee you it's going to come full circle around based on, consumer and stakeholder demand. People know that, we're living in this age where information is out there. So, be cautious and not just promising and talking good talk, but be ready to back it up.
And there's a lot of money behind this. I believe BlackRock is one of the venture capital firms or private equity firms, actually, that really pushes brands that they invest in to have a sort of higher purpose to this. Am I right on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And basically saying the mandate to not just generate revenue for our shareholders, but do a greater good in the world. And it'll come back to us, right? Creating shared value.
Shared value. That's a really key two pieces of words in what you're trying to create. Being an entrepreneur, I've always loved the concept of becoming an entrepreneur because usually for most entrepreneurs, they find something that is broken for them. They could either perfect it or it doesn't work as well as it could, and they go, this paperclip sucks. It could be better. How can I make it better? Because it can't do a certain thing for me, or maybe it's just not as good. And I see a better vision of how this can be. And then usually that translates by them improving it to something that maybe everybody or a lot of people would want to have access to. And thereby they really can enhance and make a difference in the world. A lot of authors do that, sharing their stories that come on the show. And then of course the great thing about being an entrepreneur is a lot of times you can get successful enough and make enough money to give back through charities and donations and that's probably a good question. Are charities and donating to things another good way to signal? I mean, I don't mean signal in the virtual signaling shallow sense of the word, but messaging that, hey, we care and we're giving back.
Of course, that's arguably kind of one of the oldest models of philanthropy and giving back, right? That's an easy thing to do, right? Partner with a local, a regional, a national, whatever charitable organization, foundation, and sure, honestly, philanthropy, kind of giving donations once you get there is one thing, but I would argue, it's one dimensional. Buy a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, you leave for a lifetime, right? So if you can support along the way, and part of identifying what means something for you, your values, your purpose as an organization, you don't have to go it alone. Find the existing nonprofits, that grassroots, that boots on the ground movement that already is doing that day in, day out. They've got the passion and purpose. Partner together. It's a mutual win on both fronts, right? You get a lot of that kind of goodwill and support from people that are active on the front lines, and they get a bigger platform with your organization to spread their message, right? So, I think you got to not just wait till you made it to give back, but do so along the way. And I do believe, and I've seen it's proven, it will pay itself back exponentially.
One of the first things we did with my first super successful company was in the second or third month when we achieved profitability. We were a small company, sweat equity and all that. And so we leaned and meaned it. And when we started achieving profitability, we started giving money to something that was important to me. It was primary children in Utah's hospitals, child wing for child abuse and it was their child abuse wing, basically. It's for children that had suffered trauma and child abuse and domestic violence, et cetera, et cetera. So we started giving money to them, and at first it was just a stipend because we weren't making huge bucks, but it gave us a purpose in our company as entrepreneurs to want to drive for something more. And we weren't signaling anybody, no one was sitting around going, hey, these guys do this, so we should care about them. And there wasn't a story to sell. Just the value of giving back and having us feel like we were, it made a difference when we woke up in the morning after 18-hour days going, yeah, well, we're helping somebody in this, and it gives us an extra little juice to drive a little bit harder. And so I highly recommend that as a thing to do. What are some, you guys have been doing this for 10 plus years, 174 campaigns launched, 25 million audiences activated. What have we talked about that people should understand more about branding and purpose and profit?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's looking for, we're in this growth mindset, right? How do we grow? How do we scale? How do we get there, acquire more customers pretty quickly? A lot of clients come to me and say, hey, help me with a paid media campaign, a new website, a new, all these are tactics, right? In the digital marketing realm, these are tactics. If you don't have the foundation in place, that's wasted time and energy and money, right? I shouldn't say wasted, but diminishing returns, right? So I think it's important. I believe in measuring twice, cut once, right?
Mhm.
You got to get your foundational messaging, positioning, identity locked, right? So that it can inform everything else along the way. I see, whether it's a product or a service or a SaaS company throwing money at marketing, saying it's not working. Why not? Well, you've got such a convoluted and confused messaging that no matter where you go, what ad, what website, what collateral you're interacting with, it's saying something different, and none of them are
Oh,
really saying
really?
anything.
Oh, so
Um,
there's no
there's no
consistency.
consistency. There's no through line. So
Mhm.
again, it starts with really brand identity. How are you unique and different? Start with why, right? The golden circle of Simon Sinek, right? What is your why?
Mhm.
Then how are you uniquely positioned to deliver on that why as
Ah.
a business unit? And then finally, it's what we do to do that, right? On the
Mhm.
how and the why, the products and services. So
Mhm.
everyone loves to kind of start with, well, our features, our products do this and our services do that. Well, what are you all about? What do you stand for? There's an exponential amount of people in your any industry vertical that I could go to and work with and buy from. So why you? It's a great differentiator, but that only comes with being vulnerable and being willing to look at your message, your identity, and get your North Star so that it can guide all your efforts moving forward.
There you go. And I noticed on your website you have several tools that you offer people, and website design and development, brand identity, branded content, and
Mhm.
then there was something else I saw that was, I think, some workshops or something. Tell us a
Yeah,
little
I
bit about
mean,
those.
it's I used to basically as a young agency doing all things for all companies, right? We were arguably being, led by what the clients needed of us.
Hmm.
And, after kind of hitting a pretty much a low point, financially, structurally, et cetera, soulfully, I had to have that awakening and that wake up call for myself and say, well, why am I doing this? What is the joy that I get out of this? Like the beautiful story you just shared.
Hmm.
And it realized that, I want to be able to help empower people on their path and their journey. A lot of
Hmm.
people have passion or purpose or maybe both, but are lacking that clarity. So I'm taking what I know how to do in the world and help them elevate in their careers and their lives. That's the reason, we don't basically pitch the services because yes, we do all those things. It's more of a sequence. It's more of a model for growth. So like I said in the beginning, start with discovery.
Hmm.
Discovery is all about creating a brand blueprint, a clear
Hmm.
framework for your messaging and identity, right? That strategic blueprint for where you're going to go, how you're going to get there. Then let's move into identity. Okay. What is the outward facing stuff that your audience needs to see and hear that story? Web design and development, videos, content, collateral.
Hmm.
Then we move into growth. And those are all the tools and tactics: social media, grassroots activation, paid media. So it's more about the sequencing and modeling of how you're deploying those tools than just any singular or bundle of tools themselves.
There you go. And you guys have looks like a couple of books on brand strategy guides, et cetera, that people can download and get involved with.
Yeah, visit the site. We've got under our resources a ton of blogs, got some ebooks that are basically kind of archetypes for guiding you on how to think strategically, the framework for how to build and grow your business in those phases I just outlined. Create your own brand blueprint. It's not rocket science. You can do this for yourself. And if you need help, obviously would love to have a conversation and explore that. But I want to empower entrepreneurs. I'm an accidental entrepreneur, raising my hand.
Mhm.
Had to learn the hard way, still learning. So, if we can pay it forward, some of those learnings along the way, it's a win.
There you go. So, what is the best way for people to reach out to you and explore building a relationship with you folks?
Great question. Thanks for that. Yeah, check us out on vanquishmediagroup.com. You can look at our resources, download some ebooks, contact us directly, message me on LinkedIn, Chase Friedman. I'll give you my email. I'll drop the email in here. Hey, chase@vanquishmediagroup.com.
There you go.
VANQUISH.
There you go. Let me ask you this, because a lot of people in the marketing space are talking about AI, Chat GPT and all this. Some of the marketing firms are coming down and saying, no, we don't want our people using that because of plagiarism concerns and the kind of the human. I love Chat GPT. I've been having fun with it, but one thing I can tell is that it's a robot. Like it spits out stuff and I have to, if I want to use something from it from a marketing aspect, I have to go and inject my humanness to it. What little of it there is. If you
that
have
beautiful humor, that pathos.
Yes, my little bit of humanness and it's maybe some humor. That's like, hey, some bot didn't fully write this, but and there's some people who've
your
had
mustache as you're plugging into ChatGPT.
yes, I need to do that, don't I? Taking my little evil hands, going. But any thoughts you have on AI and the contribution and brand building and is I think the question I'm trying to get to with as many segues as I can possibly interject
I'm with you.
is, and I just put that one there. So there's the irony. See what I did? And I just did another. And we'll try and see if we can get off the train here of segues. But is there a risk that brands that maybe use AI and ChatGPT or their variations that could hurt their authenticity, that could hurt their if I'm a brand who talks about authenticity and different things like that and values, can that hurt my brand?
Look, like a weapon it's a strong weapon. In the wrong hands, it could do some damage and backfire for sure. I look at AI and I think it's got some incredible capabilities, like any new and emerging platform, much like data in marketing, right? Too much of any one good thing is just results in kind of bad news. We have more access to data than ever before. That doesn't mean more data the better, right? It's how do we synthesize and get real true human understandings and narratives and insights from said data, right? So it's a great starter, right? It's a great starter from ChatGPT or whatever you're using, but it's got to be put through a humanist lens, right? You've got to still put your personality, your touch, your mustache twist into it to make it approachable. Because like any of these technology-driven companies or platforms, great capability, great use case when used correctly, but not as an end game, not as the end result, right? When I'm looking at a blank page and I need to start something, great idea starter. But then allow it to kick you off. Same thing with data, right? I'm not presenting pages of data to my clients. I'm distilling that into here's the 3 actionable points we're seeing that are going to help you take the next steps.
There you go. And this brings me into an interesting discussion because I'm seeing more and more use of brands using AI bots talking to me.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the effect of what it's called. There's a certain effect that it's called in the mental brain, and we've had some authors on. We've talked about it. But anytime I see something that's acting robotic, it sets off a very small fight or flight sort of mechanism in me. And I recognize, we recognize when something's not right about another human being talking to us, or what we perceive is another human being talking to us. And so I've seen brands starting to use these AI humanoids to talk to people and sell stuff. And it really bugs me. And I asked one of the scholars we had on him, who's a neurologist. I'm like, why does it bother me? Like, am I just, I have issues, and we all know I do. Ask my psychiatrist. But he told me, I can't remember the effect, but there's actually an effect that we have in our brain, and the reason we don't trust it. And I think what brands have to be concerned about is that effect affecting their storytelling, affecting their, because I think some are going to look at it and be like, hey, we can tell better storytelling if we have this bot that does it instead of a human being. And to me, it just makes the whole thing richer because if you have a bot that's talking to me that's AI and it's feeding me some sort of AI drivel that sounds like that staccato AI does this, that, blah, 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 and then I have a human being where I can see that this human being not only is a trust factor better, but there's that thing in your brain that makes you go, hey, I trust this a little bit more because it's not a bot.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking a lot about, you're talking about empathy from one standpoint, but
Empathy.
it's kind of also, look at in movies, right? Creating special effects that, creating that bridging that uncanny valley. And yet, as good as it is, in a lot of cases, the audience still, there's something not quite human or right about that, that animal,
Mhm.
that explosion, or that whatever it might be. But you're absolutely right. Our brains are in this constant kind of really calorie saving mode where they're going to shut out anything that's not serving them,
Yeah.
right? That's not serving us. We're bombarded by information. If we process every bit of information that came our way, our heads would freaking explode. So it's a filtering process. And I think what you're describing, and this neurologist is going to know better than I, but it's wrestling. Do I let it in? Do I keep it out? What do I do with that? Because it sounds right, but there's something not quite humanist about it. And I think that creates a lot of tension and friction. That look, there's a WGA writer strike going on right now about this central issue, or
Yeah.
part of it anyway. I sincerely hope that robots don't ever take fully over story generation,
Mhm.
because, like I said, that is so hardwired in our beings and our DNA since the dawn of time,
Yeah.
like painting on caves, that I don't believe AI could or should ever beat us at.
Definitely. I mean, and what stories do they have? They didn't walk 4 miles to
It's what
school
we
in
feed
snow back
them.
and forth either way and say,
Yeah,
we created
it's
them.
what it's
Yeah.
the knowledge. It's
Yeah.
just about, it's only what we feed them, right? That they regurgitate out in different ways. So not only is it not going to be as like pure and authentic, but you're not going to get anything truly revelatory or new.
And I think what I'm trying to say too is people are going to be suspicious of that. They're going to
Yeah.
pick it up. I finally looked this up. It's called the uncanny valley
Uncanny Valley.
effect.
Yep.
Yep. And I had friends that were doing these videos and for marketing of this AI talking to you. And I called them up and I'm being like, I'm getting fight or flight off that. I'm really freaking the hell out. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then we had this neurologist author on, and he's like, "Yeah, that's the uncanny valley effect. It is not natural for you to see that, and when you see that a human doesn't operate in the proper way, you start going, I might want to run."
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when you meet the Terminator for the first time, and half his face is tore off, or he's moving through the bars, and you're like, "This seems a
Hmm.
little not normal,"
Hmm.
and I'm going to go this way.
Yeah.
So run. So there you go. So we got a little bit of stuff in there for the AI podcast. Anything more you want to tease out before we go?
Yeah. I mean, look, the last thing is, I think this is everything we've been talking about, purpose and profit and all that good stuff. I'm on this kind of mission to try and hopefully pay it forward what I've kind of learned along the way. And I'm constantly learning more about what that means. But the misconception out there is, when people think purpose, they think nonprofit, charity, foundation. The truth is, purpose and profit are not mutually exclusive, right?
Mhm.
It's no longer just this, nice to do, feel good nicety. It's become, a mandate on all walks. And what a great mandate to have. And if this is a trend, and I think that it's obviously more than that, what a great freaking trend to have, where we have the ability to, do good in the world and do well for our businesses and ourselves, right? So why wouldn't you want to hop on that train? And if you want to learn more, let's chat about it.
This is a little bit of a fallback question, but I had just had a little bit of epiphany as to this also probably plays into experience and feelings that people get with your products.
Yeah.
There's the famous Disney experience that, all the employees at Disney are supposed to have, a carte blanche to enhance their visitors' Disney experience so that they
Yeah.
have good feelings. So things of like that nature where people want, you get the Amazon box one day after you order it and it's perfect and there's a guarantee. There's kind of an experience there to that whole prime delivery sort of thing, or at least there used to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I think user experience, customer experience is,
Mm-hmm.
can never be underrated. There's a reason why Apple gets to charge, increasing margins on their product,
You nailed that
right?
one.
People
Yeah.
aren't people aren't buying Apple phones because they're selling you the tech specs
Yeah.
or because it's the best performing phone on the market. They're selling you an aspirational identity, back to identity, right? Think
Yeah.
different. It's for the outliers, the rebels, the creators, you are buying into that brand. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the beauty of brand. When done well, that allows you to increase your margin and market share, right? You can
Yeah.
produce something for the same exact cost, but you've got a better, well executed brand. Boom, there goes your margins and market share. Same thing with Nike, or any
Mm-hmm.
of these premium products and goods. And that's what's really cool. The Louis Vuitton, and I'm blanking on the stakeholder, richest man in the world, who owns a luxury brand
Mm-hmm.
of goods.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about luxury premium product here. We're not talking about commodities. How did they get there? Through awesome branding and aspirational identity that allowed them to charge astronomical profit margins,
Yeah.
right? They're not producing anything fundamentally different. So again, getting back to the experience that someone has as a proxy for the brand,
Mm-hmm.
pay more, they'll be more loyal, they'll keep coming back. That's what you want.
There you go. There you go. Think about your experience and what your experience is with your customers. One of the things I used to do, and I think I wrote about this, was I would call in anonymously to my office. Because there's a whole web of
Yeah,
hundreds of employees that we'd have. You go to the receptionist, you go to sales, and then you go to customer service, and you go to the processing department, and all the little departments that were running around. And it was always a test for me to see, everybody knows when I call in. And I'm like, oh, that's the boss, Chris Voss, on the phone. Let's make sure we take care of his dumbass. But if when I called in with like my voice changed, or I'd have a friend call in, I just sit there on speakerphone and listen in to how they were treated and how they would go through how their experience was
yeah,
through my thing. In fact, I think there needs to be a law passed that people who own cable companies and GoDaddy and other services, I like GoDaddy, their boards need to sit, and before they can do any meeting, they have to sit down and go through. They have to try and reach themselves through the phone system first.
I
I
love
think
that.
we
Well,
need a law.
Bezos is notorious for that, right? Like
Yeah,
he would kind of keep an empty seat at board meetings and say, that's the
that's the
customer's
customer.
menu, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, we're not the biggest, we're not the biggest machine agency out there, biggest team, biggest staff, biggest overhead. We're lean and mean and small but mighty, but where I think we arguably win over most is experience and service, right? Like being willing to kind of roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, get in the trenches with our clients, to do some good. And I think that goes a long way.
there you go. There you go. Well, this has been really insightful and fun to have you on, Chase. I'm gonna have to work on my
Mm.
curling of the mustache sort of thing. Do I need to have a monocle when I do that,
I mean,
or
it certainly helps, but you got to get that kind of little spin at the end of the mustache.
I need to
That
spin the
evil,
mustache.
contemplative. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I see
then
that. That could be on brand for you. Work it. Let's see how
do
it
I need
goes.
to have like a Monopoly sort of top hat and the cane and a
Perhaps that's
monocle and
your alter ego,
I'm gonna work on this. I
Miss
developed
Chris.
this. But I need an evil laugh. I need to have that whole
It's in
who's
you,
that?
man. I feel it.
Yeah, I'll give me a mini me too. So thank you very much for coming on the show, Chase. Give us your .com so we can find you on the interwebs, please.
VanquishMediaGroup.com and find me Chase Friedman on LinkedIn.
There you go. And take and check them out, folks. You can also download a lot of their freebies they have on their website, so check that out as well. Be sure to refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. We're putting out 2 to 3 shows a weekday, I should say now. 1,400 episodes, 14 years. I was talking with Blueberry the other day, the guys who host us, and I said, who has a podcast longer than me? And they like us, the management. We've been doing it for 18. And I'm like, damn. So we're pumping out a lot of technology. If you guys aren't listening to all these episodes, we are keeping score and we're telling Santa. And at the end of the year, he's made a list. And you might not get the new PS6 or whatever. I don't know what the hell's going on at Christmas.
Bravo, man.
Bravo.
That's an
Yeah.
epic run.
Yeah, you might end up with
Happy to
coal
be
in
a
your
blip
thing.
on the radar.
Oh, we love our audience. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Sign up for the big linkedin.com newsletter, and there's the AI podcast. Check that out as well. And try and follow us on TikTok. We're trying to be cool over there, and it's not working because we're old and we're not cool. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next